Hi there. I'm Wendy, and we're going to paint cotton grass. I felt like it's April, so that's a time for flowers and fun stuff. And this is a really fun one to do that doesn't require a lot of work, but it looks like it did. So that's what makes it fun. So for this, I'm going to use a 1 inch flat. Oh, nope, a 3/4 inch flat, a round 10 and a round 2. The round 2 is just going to do this final little stuff at the end. Um, we have bleed-proof white. That's how we make all of these little fun cotton ball flowers. We're going to do most of this in quinacridone gold, ultramarine, and cobalt blue. We're just going to use the two different blues to make different greens with the quinacridone gold. So that's the basic plan of this. We are using the Canson Montval watercolor block, and this is a 4x6. You can make this bigger if you want. It might take you longer to do some of the fill-in things, so you may have to pause if you need to keep up with me, which is fine. Pause away. That's not a problem with me. I've pre-wetted everything, and I do have a heat gun because of my lack of patience to basically dry between layers so we can really keep moving with this and have a lot of fun with this. Okay. So I've pre-wet everything, and I'm going to mix a very, very yellowy green to start with to make this yellowy green color. And I'm just going to try to get it down with a lot of water and do the sky with the cobalt and let that pull down and kind of bleed together. So there's a few layers in this one, but it's actually faster than you think, especially if you have a heat gun. All right, so I'm getting the quinacridone gold. I'm putting it on my palette. I know I'm putting it in a dirty spot. It might pick up some of the other colors. I'm really not stressing out about that. I'm going to get some of the cobalt blue and put that in there and then mix it up. It's not as yellow as I want, so I'm going to get some more yellow. There we go. So we have a very nice light yellowy greeny wash to start with. It's going to give some glow in the background, which is what we're kind of going for. And it's wash brush, so I'm just going to start going across. And I'm just kind of varying the direction of my strokes so that it kind of adds to a very grassy feel. While this is still wet, let's put the sky in first, and then we'll do the rest of this while that's still wet. So you just want to get a little teeny tiny bit of the blue and put it on your brush, and at the top, kind of lay it down right on your tape. Okay, and then you're going to just get some water, and we're going to pull that down and let it just start to blend in with everything that was already there, just to kind of give us a very sky background. We'll put a little bit more blue in there because I feel like we lost some of it. And you can use, since you have a flat brush, you can just kind of drop it in. And we're going to tilt it just a little to let the colors run together. And now this base layer has already dried. And so we didn't get in time to do some of the spikes and stuff, but that's okay. We'll just do it with the next layer. So let's just kind of soften up in here. And by soften, I mean just take your wet brush, kind of run it back and forth across the two colors just to give you what you need. And as I pull that down, now it's wet enough. So then I'm going to take the brush, and it's a wide brush, but on the side, it's very thin. I'm going to take that thin edge, and I'm just going to put the impression in of some leaves. or grass. I'm thinking of Walt Whitman, I guess, with leaves of grass. So we're just kind of pulling that up and grabbing some of the color. And while this is all still wet, and you really want to make sure it's wet, you want to get some of the bleed proof white and get some of it on your brush and then on your round 10 and get some water and get some of it on your brush. And bleed proof white is like a gouache. So it has watercolor and acrylic properties. We're going to splatter that on, and it's not going to be enough paint on the brush. So we're going to do it again. And we keep going until we get the layers how we want it. So what I'm doing with this is I'm adding like faded out blossoms in the background. So they'll be there, but because this is wet, they're fading out. So they're not going to be super pronounced. So you just have that impression of them in the background. And we'll probably do that every layer. We'll see how I feel. I like these really big ones here. I'm not super fond of these smaller ones down in here, but that's all going to get covered up with the foreground. So I'm cleaning this brush. Because bleed proof white, I just don't like to leave it in my brushes. All right, I'm letting that one sit off to the side. Now you want to either let this dry or you can use a gun and dry it, and we can move on to the next layer. So I'm going to dry it with the gun. Hey, we should be sufficiently dry. You can do the finger test, see if anything's coming up. Looks pretty good. I'm going to get a tiny touch more of the cobalt, just a little bit on the edge of my brush, and mix it in. Oh, I'm going to get a little bit more. Mix it in, and I'm going to get more. It's better to go lighter first than going dark, because if you go too dark, then you have to get more yellow, and you can just darken as you go. So we just want a little bit darker than the color we did the first time and a little bit greener. And we're going to kind of do the same thing, but we're going to make sure we don't cover up all of our background. Um, so we're going to do using the flat edge of the brush, make grass. And try not to make it all the same. Just make grass. Sometimes push a little farther, sometimes pull it, a little bit more pressure. You just want to make grass. And you might want to get a little bit more water on your brush so it's a little wetter. Get a little bit more. You want to make sure you don't cover up everything, but you do want it darker down here at the bottom. So you can do just an actual wash across the bottom. And you see it's toned down a lot of those bleed proof whites that we did before. But we've got some nice wet spots. So let's go ahead and add another section of white spots. I'm going to try to focus these in certain areas. And sometimes a toothbrush works better for this. You can just really splat it with a toothbrush. And sometimes you can just dot it in where it's wet, where you know the paint is wet, or the paper is wet, so it fades out. And if you think you've got it not spread out enough, just go ahead and get some water, and then you can kind of move those around a little bit. You just want really watery bleed proof white to give your impression of cotton flowers. And sometimes this works better than the spatter because the spatter is really hard to control. But that's okay. All right, we want this to dry, and then we're going to go a little darker. This time I'm going to add, realize I got real loud on that part, sorry. I'm going to add some ultramarine to my green mixture. There was a lot of water, so I was losing a lot of the pigment. So I'm getting a lot of pigment, and then we'll add in some of the Q Gold, which I'm going to have to add more to my palette here soon. All right. And again, we just want to go a little bit darker than what we had, and we just want a little tone, a little bit different of the green. And we're going to do the same thing, but we're not going to go quite so high. And we're going to really start in like the corner section here and just kind of putting down across the bottom, maybe popping it up a little. Just however feels good to you. But I like almost like a vignette where it's a little dark on the sides and a little lighter. And then I'm going to just start and if you don't like using this, the flat side of your brush, you don't have to. You can use your round 10. I just like because I can just slightly move it and it varies the colors. And that makes me really happy. Okay, and we've got a couple of decently wet spots, so let's do some drop-ins of our bleed-proof white. Just a couple spots where we think it's wet enough that it's going to dissipate. So we want these balls, as they get closer, they need to get a little bit bigger. That makes sense. You want the big balls. It's cotton grass, so you want big cotton balls. And we just kind of put that in a few spots. That's going to dry. We're going to darken up our colors, our green again, and we're going to do kind of our final layer of the background. And then we're going to put in our flowers. So let's get this dried. Okay, let's lay down some of our cobalt or our Q Gold. So we want this really pigmented. This next layer needs to be really pigmented so that it can go over the layer that we've done. And I'm using the aquamarine. You can use a mix of the aquamarine and the cobalt blue to get the green that you're looking for. Or you can use a pre-made green. I just like to blend the colors a little bit, and then you have fewer colors to buy. I want that a little bit bluer. Looking a little too khaki for me. There we go. That looks like a pretty good color. So once again, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take some up, but we're really going to start focusing on grass that's going up with just the edge of the brush. And you can just dot it down like this, and it's going to give you a really fun texture. You can take some of them up. You're going to want to make them all exactly the same. It's just what our brain does. Leave some open spots. You can take it right in front of the previous flowers though, because you want them to look like they are behind this. So I'm just scratching in grass, really. And if you see right here, everything is exactly the same and it's boring. So make sure we're adding pops up, pops down, maybe a little bit more blue in here while it's still wet. So we get some bleeds and some darker colors. Ooh, that's pretty. But make sure you're leaving some of the background too. Like we don't want to cover it all up. You just spent all that time on that and you don't want to cover it. Except for really right in here. Like the bottom needs to be the darker greens. And this would be really cool in any color. If you don't want to use white, if you wanted to make it a field of pink flowers, if you wanted to make it a field of red flowers or blue flowers, this is a really easy way. When you throw in the flower color while it's wet, it's going to bleed out. You dry it, then you're going to have those blooms in the background, which just give you like texture and dimension, which is super fun. Okay, so now we're going to paint our 5 main flowers. So typically in art, you want odd numbers. I don't know why, it just tends to be a little bit more pleasing. So you want odd numbers to make the eye happy. Don't ask me why. I am not the one who created the rules of art. So I don't know why. I just know that that's what typically works best. So I'm going straight in with my round 10 to get the bleed proof white. And we're going to just pick some spots and we're going to do it down from the tip and swoosh it to the side and then do the other side. And you just want to do 3 to 5 of these. You can do 6 or 7 depending on how big your paper did. I would recommend odd numbers, different heights, different sizes, facing different directions. So I'm going to have one here that's going this way. Okay, so it's starting to fade, which means I just need a little bit more bleed proof white. And then maybe right here. You do want to work rather quickly because our next step is going to be adding some greens into the centers of these flowers. Okay. Cleaning that brush, I'm getting my 2. I am getting a little bit of the Paynes gray to make the green nice and dark. Just a tiny touch of the Paynes gray. And then I'm going to start in the base and pull down. So if you put it right in the base of your flower and it's still wet, it's going to bleed up into the flower. And if you can't do this quickly enough, do each one at the same time or do them one at a time. So like here, I feel like I didn't get enough of the color up in there, so I'm just adding some. And then on the sample one, I added a little bit of green on the edges of each bud of the cotton grass. And I just did it on one side so that it would kind of stand out from the background a little bit. So you've got your bud bases and the colors going up into them. You can add more if you feel like it. You can add less. Really, however you want these little cotton flowers to look. And if you've chosen to do a different color of flower, however you want those flowers to look. Okay, so let's keep going with this darker green. And I've just added the Paynes gray. Paynes gray is a bluey gray. So when you add it to a yellow, you do get a green, a nice dark green. Okay, and now with light pressure, we're going to do some leaves on this piece of, on our little buds. Okay, I don't think that color is dark enough. It's not showing up as well as I would like it. So I'm just getting more. Add a little bit of blue to that. And I'm starting from the bottom. I'm trying to use my whole arm to just, and then I'm going to darken up that stem a little because I feel like I lost it. I'm doing that with each one of these little buds. And if your lines aren't straight, that's fine. And sometimes it helps to use your whole arm instead of just your wrist, like move from the elbow instead of just from here. So let's just darken up that stem. And vary the pressure that you put down so you can get thicker and thinner lines. Give that stem a little bit of love. And just take that right off the side of the paper. Now, I realize these all look like they're coming out of the same spot. And to me, that's really bothering my brain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the flat brush again. I'm going to get some straight Paynes gray. I'm going to put it right into here. A lot of it because I got it nice and wet. There we go. A little bit of the green or the yellow, the gold. All right, some more Paynes gray. I just want this to be really nice and dark. Okay, and then I'm going to start. And here I just put them everywhere, but here I made every single one of those stems the same size, which I doesn't give me the variety that I want. So what I'm going to do is just try to cover up sections and drop them down a little. Like maybe this one is lower. But I lost a lot of my variety there, so I didn't care for it. So I'm adding some grass at the bottom to change it up a little. And I'm going like completely off the page so that like these grasses are short, they're long. I'm not adding a lot to the brush so that they get differing colors because the more you use it, the less it goes on and off. And that's going to help me add that variety that I was hoping for in here because I felt like they were all way too the same and it was boring. Okay, I'm going to dry this And as you can see, it's already different from the original because this is a really hard thing to replicate and do exactly the same. But I'm going to go ahead and dry this. We've got like these lovely flowers in the front. You can see some of these in the back and they're bouncing and it's great. So what I'm going to do is dry this and then we're going to take some straight Paynes gray and add one little last layer of grass. Okay, that's dry. I'm getting my two and I'm going to go straight into the Paynes gray. I'm going to run it. Okay, that's nice and dark. I like it. I'm doing this to see how pointy I can get the tip of my brush. And I'm just going to do some really, really dark ones. Not a lot. See, that one went in front of that flower. That's totally fine. And I'm really lightly touching and like using the whole arm to just add it. When it gets too light, I get some more paint. Now, if your paint isn't watery enough, it's going to skip, which is fine. That's what you want it to do. We're going to do some really short little grasses down in here. And just adding these layers helps add depth to your painting. And I think that's it. I think we'll be done because if I add any more, I might get annoyed. You can add in more white. You can add in more color. You can do whatever makes you happy. But for me, I'm going to remove my tape because that's usually what makes me happy. Then you get these nice, fun, super crisp lines. If you put the tape on, sometimes it doesn't work. This is washi tape. I've tried several kinds of artist painter's tape, and I like washi tape the best. So washi tape is my go-to. It's also significantly cheaper than the artist tapes. Try to pull it at a 45-degree angle. If you feel it sticking, you can stop it and then blast it with the heat gun. That will help you. The heat will release some of the adhesive in your tape and make it easier to pull. And we keep pulling. That's just so fun. See, it's stuck on the back of the cardboard. And then sometimes, and I'm not going to do it on this one, but sometimes after I do the tape pull, I like to add some things that come outside of the frame just a little bit. I did that with the koi fish, if you guys saw the koi fish video. So there we go. This was cotton grass. I am going to grab my pen and I'm going to sign down here. I'm going to tell you what I called it. Because I cannot sign with a brush. That's just not something that's in my wheelhouse. Then I like to put the year so I can see how I've progressed throughout the years. We feel fairly dry. Lid, bleed proof white. Always, before you do anything else, put the lid on your bleed proof white because there are so many times that I have forgotten to do that. Then we get our handy dandy palette knife. We slide it up under just this one. For some reason, I'm having some issues with. Usually they start to separate a little because this one is wet and the other papers are not. So then you can get a little bit more. It's a little easier. And you slide this all the way around. They recommend that you do not use an X-Acto blade because that will possibly cut the layer underneath, and you don't want to cut your next painting up. So there we go. We have cotton grass. And you can see how they can be different. Honestly, anytime you do this, it'll probably turn out differently. You can change the shapes. You can have the cotton flowers and different things. You can make the sky, you can make the sky pink. You can do anything that you want because it's your painting. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Next week, we're going to do dandelion fluff. And I'm a big fan of this. This was a lot of fun. In this one, we'll learn how to do very smooth, gradated washes, and then putting in the mountains so they look like they're glowing in the background, and then adding darkness and layers each time. And then we're going to use bleed proof white. We're going to do a layer down first, then do some pen details and some brushwork, and then put another layer over top. So you get this really good mound of fluffiness. So that's next week. But I hope you guys enjoyed this week's painting, and we will see you next week. Bye.